Hi, my name is Tim Trono, and I'm here with Wayne Houchin.
How are
good
you?
to see you, buddy.
You too?
So we're going to be announcing right now something that's real exciting, a project. Tell us about it.
Well, I grew up on a particular set of books that were my real first introduction to actual close-up magic, and they were Paul Harris's Art of Astonishment series, which was a collection of many of his older books and ideas that were all brought together with this particular philosophy. And I know that these books influenced generations of magicians. Well, the Art of Astonishment is coming to DVD. It's something I've been working closely with Paul on, and very excited to announce that the first DVD is going to be available at the end of January.
Right. Now, explain the difference, because True Astonishments just came out, and that's a great thing. Talk
Certainly.
about the difference.
Some of the questions I've got, even from magician friends of mine who knew that I was involved with this project, is they said, you know, didn't this just come out? Mm-hmm. Didn't Art of Astonishment just come out? No, True Astonishments is a different, it's a very different thing, and I think the confusion comes from the fact that True Astonishments was originally intended years ago to be an updated version of the Art of Astonishment books.
Right.
What Paul found was that there's so much great new material that just kept coming that slowly the Art of Astonishment material got pushed out, and so True Astonishments is primarily new. Right. Which worked out well for me, because I'm very excited to be able to jump into a book that really changed the way that I looked at magic. When I was 16 years old, I was performing stand-up magic, rope routines, card manipulation act, and then I saw a magician perform some of Paul's materials, Joel Pascal. We sat down at a coffee shop, and for 3 hours, 2.5, 3 hours, he changed my life. He showed me things with cards that I didn't even know existed. I didn't even know it was possible to link two cards. I hadn't even thought about that.
Right.
And he lent me Paul's Art of Astonishments when I was 16, and that was my introduction to close-up magic.
And just for clarity's sake, basically, this is not all of the material from Art of Astonishment.
No.
It's not all coming out at once, is that correct?
What we're doing is we're going through, Aaron Fisher is working on this project also with us, and we're going through not just the Art of Astonishment, but Paul's original books. And we're taking a look at the plots and the methods that are really important, things that were really revolutionary at the time. And we're looking at what they turned into in the Art of Astonishment books and how that relates to the overall picture and philosophy that Paul developed of astonishment being the central focus. And so we're hand-selecting certain effects, and effects that meant a lot to me, too, as I was performing and learning close-up magic. And we're organizing those into the series. And the series will come out, in chunks, bite-sized chunks.
Right. And basically, this is a Wayne Houchin Productions. This is not a Paul Harris, but Paul's given his blessing. He's actually part of this.
And Paul's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't even do this without Paul. This couldn't,
Right.
Yeah, this is not, and I think that's an important point. This is not me, doing Paul. This is Paul's very, very involved in this. The core, the backbone of this series is a really phenomenal and interesting set of interviews that we filmed with Paul Harris, where we talk about everything from how he started creating magic and where it first started, to publishing the first books, and that path, the path to astonishment, I like to call it. How it went from, because if you read his early books, his humor is so great. And I mean, reading one of those books is like a performance in and of itself. There's so much that goes on, great methods and everything, but his early books are very different from the kind of magic that he talks about in Art of Astonishment. Right. In the sense that he hadn't really developed that theory, the philosophy of astonishment at that point in time, and what we're really interested in is how that developed and evolved to what it is.
Yeah, and the important thing to understand on these, though, too, is that you talk about the influence. I mean, this material's influenced you, David Blaine, on and on and on. A really core group. I mean, it's
Paul's the Art of Astonishment books and Paul's philosophy on astonishment, arguably, could be said to be one of the things that really started this whole street magic craze. Paul and that philosophy were instrumental in the development of David Blaine's character for for his very first television special.
Right.
And if you look at Blaine's specials and what that street magic, what all that was when it started, the principles that Paul talks about are right there. Yeah.
But what's interesting I found about our discussions with this and some of the look that I've had into this project is that this is also really your take on this material. In other words, it's not just taking the Art of Astonishment from the book and here it is on DVD.
Right.
You've lived with this material,
right.
so you
Certainly
have different handling.
Sure. Sometimes it's a handling touch. Sometimes it's a presentational thing that works better. Because Paul was a crazy man back in the day, in a good way. But yeah, you know, some of this material is really important to me. But more importantly than that, a lot of the material and the methods are important to magic. Period.
Right.
What Paul did was really incredible. You know, when he started publishing his books, magic changed. Mm-hmm. I mean, at that point, reading a magic book was looking at old black and white photographs, and Paul Harris comes along, and he's got, this insane sense of humor. And all of a sudden, cards aren't just cards anymore. They're being twisted. They're being linked together. They're being destroyed. He seemed to have some kind of grudge against cards. He kept destroying them. I don't know. But I mean, he took off into a completely different direction, and there are a lot of really important and powerful ideas that he developed.
And so the first one, which are coming at the end of January, beginning of February, is basically a few of the effects that you've pulled out that you've used, and this is kind of certainly Paul's there and part of this, but it's some of your handling and changes and ideas and thoughts.
I mentioned Aaron Fisher earlier. Aaron and I have really kind of dug into a lot of this material and looked through all of Paul's old books, like I said, in addition to The Art of Astonishment. And we've really workshopped a lot of the material too, and there are some new things and some new presentations and some new subtleties, and it's just so exciting to. I mean, who gets to do this? I get to jump in and be a part of bringing to life a set of books that not only changed magic for me, but changed magic for so many other people. Yeah. And to be able to sit down with Paul Harris and have a conversation about this and about the material is it's just kind of incredible.
And one last question about this. How, not to hold you to it, but obviously you're breaking this up and kind of having it come out in bite-sized chunks. About how often are we going to be seeing these?
We're shooting for, a volume every 3 to 4 months or so is kind of the timeline we're looking at. And that was one of the things we discussed, was should we do it all at once and have a big set come out? And True Astonishments obviously did incredibly well. But I think it's important for us to kind of take the viewers down that path that I talked about, and to illustrate that. I think in order to do that, we're going to want to take our time with production and make sure we do everything right along the way. So it is broken up, but every 3 to 4 months or so.
Wow, I'm really looking forward to this. So Art of Astonishment.
Me too.
Thanks. Good job.
Thank you.